Mario, welcome to the Vital Veda podcast. I'm very excited for you to be on the show. We've done maybe 5 or 6 episodes on water, and I'm really excited to speak to you because we're going to speak about structured water, coherent water, fourth phase of water, all these different ways of talking about water in its natural, optimal state for health. And why I'm excited for you is because there is literally 1,000,001 ways to structure water or to make water coherent. There's so many ways. And I think coming across your work and using your device, I may have discovered one of the best ways. So before we go into that, I would love you to explain to our listeners, what is structured and coherent water?
First of all, thank you so much, Dylan, for having me here. It's always my pleasure. And I've been to really many interviews and it's never boring to me because this whole topic is extraordinary. Water is the most fundamental level of our existence and basically everything around us. People don't understand they just see water as a simple element, but there are worlds hidden in it. And just so you know, our whole project is 15 years in making, and over 50 scientists has worked on this project over 3 continents.
Wow.
When we realize that there is this extraordinary thing in water, we just threw ourselves into it and we really went down the rabbit hole. So just to explain to people the difference between regular water and coherent water or structured water. In our research, we realized that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So it's still H2O, of course, but H2O molecules, they're actually moving randomly and chaotically, and they're crashing into each other. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of that. This chaos has a profound effect on our health and wellness, even though we're completely unaware of that. There is a way to bring water into a liquid crystalline state. So when you use our technology, when you use the wand, what happens is that those same chaotic H2O molecules, they start to link together. They start to behave harmonically. You start to see these coherent fields happening in water. So water starts to move in unison, so to speak. And through this unique process, water becomes alive. It becomes empowered, and it can do so much for our health and wellness. How I like to explain it to people in very simple terms. For instance, if you would take light bulb of 5 watts, it will give you some light. But if you take 5-watt laser, so it's the same power, but it's coherent form of light, focused form of light. You can actually drill a hole through your table through the same power. So this is how I would explain the difference, because we tested this water on humans, we tested it on animals, we tested it on plants, and there are even extraordinary environmental implications of using this water. So any biological system that gets touched by this water has profound changes. And we actually measured a lot of them. So I'm super, super excited to be actually sharing this science.
Yeah, I love it. So, Gerald Pollack, a famous water scientist, is famous for talking about the fourth phase of water. This water that's not liquid, it's not ice, it's not gas, it's like a gel-like substance. Is that coherent water? Is that the structured water?
Jerry is a dear friend of ours. People in let's say scientific water community, there aren't like thousands of scientists all over the planet. There are hundreds, I would say, and people come together every single year, and everybody shares everything. So it's a vibrant new field in it. I would say that there are several ways to bring water in coherent state, and there are several coherences, so to speak, to structure. So Gerald actually came to his easy water exclusion zone water his own way, and we actually tested to see are they the same? And they actually are not. So this again showed us there are like really an extraordinary science behind it, because there are so many nuances to it, and the nuances to the effects as well.
You're right.
So we came about it in a totally different way. We realized in our research that water is always going to pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment. That's why it's so important how we treat water. And how we're treating water as a society is appalling. I mean, when you see what we're putting into water, into whole municipality water supply, and then we are actually driving the water to our faucets in our homes in a very unnatural way. All of this is killing the vitality of the water. People usually go to the chemical side of things. Okay, if I filter the water, I cover the ground. But this is what our science really showed in very detail, is that even if you take the toxin out of it, the frequency of it, the information of it still stays there. So when you drink that water, even if you took the chemical out, you're still introducing that same information into your system.
And that's because water is really good at absorbing information.
Yes, water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration. This is what allowed, Nikola Tesla, one of the most famous scientists of all time, said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And water is at the very heart of it, because it's a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration. So anyhow, when we realized that water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, our whole quest was to create the most dominant positive frequency water there is. Why? Because we knew any other water that would be exposed to it would become exactly like it, because water picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. And after years of research, we created what we now call the mother water. It takes us 1 full year to create the mother water. It has 5 stages that water needs to pass through. And once it passes the 5th stage, it never goes back.
Wow.
To chaos. And this is the main difference. There are several scientists on the planet that created some form of structured water. They're doing either vortexing or magnets. There are various ways, but we tested most of these technologies, and water actually enters into state of coherence, but it stays there anywhere between a couple of minutes and a day and a half. Then water molecules break and the water goes back to chaos. With Analemma Water, it doesn't happen that way. Once it passes this 5th stage, it never goes back to chaos. And we really we did a lot of things. Usually when you radiate water, if you put a glass of water next to your Wi-Fi router, you're putting your water even more deeply into chaos. But even with that, we actually radiated our water with 5G. We did all kinds of things to it. And this water resists.
Wow.
It becomes so resilient that the structure actually holds. And we did double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, which proved that there are remarkable health effects just by drinking this water.
Wow, that's profound. That's the very powerful thing about this. And I've used vortex technology before coming across your thing, and we still have it. We've got our whole house connected to it, and it's fascinating how you say how long it lasts. I mean, I would love to know about spring water. I generally say the best thing you can drink is spring water, and then not everyone can drink spring water, and definitely people can't bathe in it and have their whole house running on it. So the next best thing you can do is filter and restructure. But I've always been someone like restructure is more important than filtering. Yes. If you had to choose, and I've started that. And I love how you said how the memory, in Ayurveda we call it the samskara.
That's the key element about water. Water is a communication system. It takes in and it stores. That's why it's so important how we're treating water. I agree with you. You mentioned spring water and the difference. Spring water is pure from the chemical side of things. But to find coherent water, you really have to go remote, somewhere in the nature.
Right.
And it's not even everywhere, so to speak. You can even come to a spring and it's not going to be there. We actually went all over the planet and we tested water from all over the planet to see, does it exist? And it actually exists in this coherent state, but you have to find it somewhere really far away from the civilization. But even then, when you take it out of its natural environment, very soon the water molecules break and they go into chaos.
That was my
So
question. How long does spring water take to lose its state of
if you
coherence?
take it out in a couple of days, it's gone.
Right, because I can taste that. Like when we get our spring water delivered, the day and the day after, especially the day, you can feel the vibrancy, what we call prana, that life force. You can feel that structure. You can taste it, and then the longer it goes, it loses that.
Yes.
So fascinating. Yeah.
So this resilience, I would say that due to various environmental toxins, EMFs, everything that modern world kind of brought with itself, water is profoundly influenced by it. And that's why we say that Mother Earth is the hidden voice of this project, because it was necessary to bring water back into the state it was supposed to be, because our biology is really works in unison with the water in the way it was intended to be. And the effects of it. I mean, it's extraordinary when you think of it, all the studies that we did, and we barely scratched the surface of it. You see extraordinary, profound effect, which is almost immediate. Now it's a good time for us to jump in the first study that we did. Since I mentioned that this water is an electromagnetic phenomenon. And we were thinking, what's the most electromagnetic part of human biology that we can very accurately measure? And it's our brainwaves. This is something that we can very accurately measure. And what we did a double-blind study with genetically identical twins. It's a golden standard study. You have these two genetically identical individuals, and if something works on one, it needs to work on the other. So again, it was double blind. So the doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and twins didn't know which one was which. We just put QEEG equipment on their heads. We monitored their brain waves, and they just took a couple of sips of water. So the twin that actually drank regular water, there was zero change. So there was really nothing changed in brainwave pattern. Everything stayed the same, which you would kind of expect. But almost as soon as the twin that took a couple of sips of Analemma water, there was an almost instant better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, an instant harmonizing effect on the brain waves, which really blew our minds that happened that fast. This was first irrefutable evidence that something biologically remarkable happens when people drink this water. We repeated the experiments 3 weeks later, and we gave the Analemma water to the other twin. And the first twin now drank regular water. And the first twin now, zero effect. And the twin that took Analemma water, we saw exactly the same phenomenon as the first twin. So this was really powerful evidence. Something is really happening there. That's why when people even they start to drink this water, they immediately sense the difference. 99% of people, I would say, first of all, they experience the taste difference. So you just have the same water, you drink a little bit, and then you swirl it, and you take another sip, and there is very palpable change in water. And this is where person can immediately sense there is something changed there. We did, of course, near-infrared, ultraviolet visual spectroscopy and biophoton emissions and all this research to prove that water changes. But, it's always kind of when you drink the water, you yourself can sense the difference. This was the first study, the brainwave study that we did. There are many other studies that we did afterwards that prove that you don't have just short-term effect. You have midterm effect and you have a long-term effect on your entire biology when you drink this water.
Yeah, biology, which is 99.92% water on a molecular level and 70% mass. So, yeah, I did feel that when I used it, and a combination of the mother water, but also the beautiful ritual of twirling it and of putting attention and taking time before sipping the water. And that's, again, interconnected with this phenomena of water, that it absorbs the energy, the memory, the information. So just to clarify, the reason why spring water was losing structure so fast, is that because it's absorbing the negative information such as stress, EMF, whatever it is? Is that why spring water is losing?
Well, we can only hypothesize, but this is exactly our hypothesis, that because of this, all of this that's happening all over the planet, especially when we live in information age, and we realized in our research that water is very susceptible to EMFs, and we have this huge saturation of these man-made waves which are not in any way natural. So our hypothesis is that had very much to do with it. It puts water deep into chaos. So that's the one reason of it. That's our hypothesis. And that's why we believe, because there is such huge saturation, something needed to emerge, so to speak, to bring water back into its natural state and bring it into stable state that can actually resist all of these effects, all of these influences, stimuli, and still stay strong, so to speak, so that when we would drink it, we would have the benefit. I have to mention all of our studies on plants. This is where we started. We actually picked up a whole lab by famous German scientist, Dr. Fritz Albert Popp. He actually created this technology that can capture biophotons. So every living thing, every biological system exudes these tiny particles of light. The more biophoton emission a biological system has, more vitality it has. So very early on, we had this huge greenhouse where we did the research on plants, and we realized that when you change the water, biophoton emission of plants change dramatically. They start to exude like more than significantly larger quantities of light. For instance, our tomatoes, they were grown with Analemma water. They actually exude anywhere between 60 and 200% more light than tomatoes that were grown with regular water. And, we even realized that it has a progressive effect. For instance, when we grew tomato, when we took the seeds out and replanted it, and did 3 generations. After 3 generations, you don't even need to use no pesticides on it. It becomes so resilient to any form of invader. And not only that, any form of stress. We actually just recently did a study where we proved that even when under stress, plants are actually going to thrive when watered with Analemma water.
So I love how you spoke about earlier how people think water's simple, like it's such a fundamental element. It's just water, but actually water is extremely complex, and it's got many anomalies, which are unique and unusual properties that deviate from the behavior of most substances. And scientists are completely baffled by water, the mysteries of water, and how it essentially holds the answer to life's mysteries.
I love that you noticed this, because when you ask a scientist actually what water is, they don't know. It's very hard to even explain what water is, because it behaves in an extraordinary way. I love how Masaru Emoto was one of the pioneers that explained that really kind of put water. I mean, there are many scientists before, but let's say that in the more modern age, he really explained the intelligence of water. What is the definition of intelligence? If a being responds to outside stimuli in a very particular way. And this is exactly what water does. He did this. He actually did this small study, an experiment, which he invited, and thousands of people all over the world repeated it. He took rice, he boiled it, he put it in 2 cups, and every single day he came to 1 cup of rice and expressed beautiful, positive, loving emotions to it every single day. And to the other one, he expressed negative emotion every single day, hatred, anger, negative emotions. And after a week or so, when you come to the rice that had positive emotions expressed to it, many people all over and people can do it themselves and repeat the experiment. You had this beautiful fermented smell of rice, and you could eat that rice. While the other one, which is the same rice, it just had water absorbed in it, and the water picked up the frequency. It had foul smell and visual sign of decay, and you couldn't touch that rice. Water responds intelligently to outside stimuli. That's why it's so important how we treat water. And that's exactly like you mentioned, the whole ritual where you come with Analemma and you swirl the water and you put your highest energies, your blessings, the best of you in water. And that frequency, that vibration, that energy gets stored there. And when you drink that water, your entire system is going to be super grateful because you're replenishing your system with the one thing that has the most value of all, and that's energy. Energy, frequency, and vibration.
So this phenomena, so as I said, there's many anomalies, and I don't know if yours is considered. I once interviewed, I don't know if you know Professor Mark Cohen. He's an Australian scientist. He's very much into water as well. I think it was him who told me there were 64 anomalies of water. I mean, that's at least so far. And there is one called the quantum coherence anomaly, which is when a particle like water are correlated in anything else. So their quantum states are interconnected. So it allows them to act in this coordinated manner, even across distances. So there's so many things like water can pass through solid walls and bilocate and trilocate, like all these type of things. The same water molecule can occupy more than 6 locations at once. Like there's so many amazing feats about water. So one of these, well, I don't know if it's an anomaly or this phenomenon of this absorbing information. So I want to speak to the resilience that you've created with Analemma, because if water's so good at absorbing information, how can you then twist that on its head and say, well, I'm going to make you so resilient that you're not going to absorb information and you're going to keep this information, which I've put into you, which is a mother water that is very coherent.
Yeah,
that's your secret recipe or what? Like, how are you overcoming this?
So the key thing is, in our research, we realized that water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. That's the thing. If it's the most dominant one, water is going to catch on that. So that's our whole quest when we realized that. Okay, let's find the most positive dominant frequency there is, because we knew it wouldn't even matter wherever the water was. If you expose the water to most dominant positive frequency, water is just going to catch and grab on that, and it will stay there because all the other frequencies are going to be less than that. And then the water is not going to pick up that one. That's where when we realize that, that's our whole quest. And that's why I'm saying 15 years in the making, 50 plus scientists over 3 continents. In studying what's actually happening and how the water behaves, and how we're just, as I mentioned, 1 full year for us to create the mother water. 5 stages that water needs to pass through to actually get there. And once it passes the 5th one, it never goes back. We actually tested it for now over 6 years consecutively after just 1 treatment. And water never goes back. It has the very same effect. The resilience of it is really, really, really extraordinary. And just so you know, I have to mention this, something that most people aren't aware about EMFs. And we realize that EMFs have this tremendous effect of bringing water into chaos. And that water falls on our plants. And our plants absorb it. We actually did a study on it when we radiated the water and we gave it to plant, and plant died. And then we used the same radiated water and we made it coherent. And we watered the plant and the plant thrived.
Wow.
So that's the simple, it's very simple to do the study, but the key element was to find that extraordinary state of water. That's why we call it the mother water. And that's why we put it in a crystal vial in the Analemma wand. And this crystal vial actually has two purposes. One is to create, of course, the barrier between the mother water, which is inside, and the rest of the water through which you swirl the wand through. But one other really important element is that crystal serves as a superconductor.
Right.
It allows the frequency of mother water to pass through without any loss. So it's like you're putting the mother water without any barrier around. And when you swirl the Analemma stick through the water, any H2O molecule, chaotic H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water starts to mimic its structure. And after 30 seconds, in an effect, you get a glass of mother water.
Right.
And when you drink it, then you have all the effects. That's why our brainwave study was it works extraordinarily fast, because 99% of our molecules are water. We're actually more water than the ocean, if you can imagine. We're actually more water than the ocean.
Wow. Yeah, it's very relevant, the crystal, because there's so many relationships between the crystal and the structure, like crystalline state of water, and crystals also amplify. So I'm sure that will also add to it. They absorb, store, amplify, transduce. It's amazing.
Exactly. That's why the combination of it actually works very well, because crystals also. This is really also interesting how, since 99% of our molecules are water, and water in our body exists in this coherent state. We are a liquid crystal. And that's why it's so important how we are tuned, so to speak, because then we are either in connection with ourselves and the whole system communicates with itself. But again, hugely important, are we receiving the optimum information from our larger electromagnetic environment? Are we flowing with it, or we're separate from it? And this is where Analemma Water plays a huge role. I would even say that this is the most important part of the magic of this water. We did a lot of double-blind placebo-controlled studies that proves there's extraordinary health effect on the body, but we would say that this one, I'm just going to share the study that we did, which really is extraordinary. It blew our minds. So early on, we actually took seeds, which are this tiny, tiny piece of life, and we watered some with regular water, some with Analemma water, and we monitored biophoton emissions to see whether something would change. Seeds that were watered with regular water, we saw nothing happening. We saw no change. Everything stayed the same. But the seeds that were watered, we just sprinkled them with Analemma water. We started seeing these peaks and valleys of biophoton emission. It's like it started to breathe in and breathe out light in a long form. It was like, what's happening there? We connected to other scientists because we didn't realize what changed just by sprinkling Analemma water on it. And after a while, we realized that it started to follow the tides. So Analemma water connected this tiny piece of life to circadian rhythm of nature.
Wow.
It connected it to its larger electromagnetic environment, to its relevant information. So you can imagine us being the most intelligent, well, I would think so, most intelligent creature on the planet. what it does to us, how it primes us. I would say that it upgrades your entire operating system. And when you upgrade your entire operating system, not only that all of your existing software is going to work better, but you're going to be able to install new software.
Wow.
You can receive the optimum information. So you're not going to be connected. We saw this coherence. We proved in the brainwave study, the delta coherence that actually happens when people either meditate or they use psychedelics. So you actually enter into a state of coherence, but it works even further. It connects you electromagnetically to your larger environment. So you're moving with the earth. You're not separate from it.
Right.
You're part of it. This is what this study proved. And that's why I say that this is the most important element of this water, especially now in this point in time where Earth is changing dramatically. So are we moving with the planet? Or are we staying separate from each other, from ourselves?
Yeah. It makes me think of certain meditation practices and things like that, which influence the water in our body. So that meditation practice will be creating a state of coherence through giving information, and it's beautiful. And yeah, and then you can do it through a very relative physical thing of just drinking water or mixing it with something like a mother water. So very profound.
I would even say that it's going to improve your meditation because it connects you in a way. It primes your body to receive.
Right.
And then when you enter into state of stillness, you can perceive more. You can hear more because your antenna has changed.
Right. It's huge. It's upgrading.
Really upgrading your entire operation system. So it really is extraordinary. I can maybe jump. Now we went into this whole esoteric world. I like to bring it down, to ground it. Just to explain to people, because most people, I'm sure that your followers, they actually perceive more. And since you're talking about meditation and all of this, they're more aware. But we're doing studies so that even people who aren't into that, they know that when they drink this water, their biology is going to change. So since we saw this huge energy change, vitality change in plants, we want to see how to do that in people. So we decided to do an ATP study, adenosine triphosphate. It's the primary energy currency of the cell. It's directly responsible for powering the majority of cellular processes inside of our body, including muscle contraction, nerve impulse transmission, biochemical reactions, every heartbeat, every breath, every cognitive performance thing depends on ATP. That's why it's so important. By the levels of ATP, you can very accurately measure a person's vitality and health. So we did a double-blind, placebo-controlled study where in the beginning of the study, we took a snapshot of ATP levels in participants. Then they drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day without changing anything else in the world. So they didn't change their exercise regime. They didn't change their diets. They didn't change basically anything that would change ATP levels other than water. After 2 months, we took another snapshot. And what we saw was the 20% rise in overall mitochondrial energy of the body over the placebo. When you calculate the placebo, that's 1/3 rise in energy just by drinking this water. And we're not talking about Red Bull energy here. We're talking about actual mitochondrial energy. And there is even stronger implication here. Most scientists now agree that one of the key causes of cellular aging is the decline in mitochondrial function. And we proved that your mitochondrial function increases more than significantly just by drinking the water.
It's amazing. So Just to again paint a more clear picture with the wand, it's basically like a test tube which you stir in, and that's when the information gets transferred to your glass of water. Or what I like to do is stir it in my kettle before boiling the water, because I always drink hot
Yeah. Yeah,
drinks.
this was our first application because we wanted to come up with something. Now we're having several other out as well, but this was the first one where you have so the Analemma 1 has this crystal vial which is filled with mother water, and it has a holder on top. So you just take the wand, submerge it in your water, and you swirl for 30 seconds, and in an effect you get a glass of mother water. This was our first application. We came out like 6 months ago or so with the whole house system,
which is so important. I was curious how that works, because you're not swirling it, or it's just, I assume it's just passing through the mother water.
Yeah,
into the house.
We created the whole system so that in a very kind of short, let's say, space, the water enters into state of coherence. Right. And it's really kind of complicated how we did it, but we found a way, and it's really extraordinary.
Amazing.
So you just install it in the piping system of your house, and all of the water, wherever you open your faucet, is going to be coherent. But where is actually the importance of it? We were always thinking of what would happen, since 99% of our molecules are water. What would happen if people would lay down, take a bath in Analemma water? What would be the effects? So we connected to actually Hydrate Spa, now Lumati, Dr. Greg Lane, and my dear friend David Perez. And since they had equipment to measure various vitals before and after, it was a brilliant situation where we can actually test the effects. And we did a 100 people study. We measured cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, and most importantly, heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is a phenomenal marker of overall health and longevity. Every single person in the study experienced improvement in cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, and the minimum improvement, the minimum rise in heart rate variability that we saw was 30%. The minimum.
Wow.
So that's why we're super excited that people can actually install the whole house system, and then you just open your faucet, and that's basically it. For people who can't afford, we made this whole technology very affordable. A whole house system is $1,800, and the wand is $180. And if you take care of it, if you don't break it, because it's very fragile, you have to take care of it like a jewel. But if you take care of it, it will create coherent water for you for life. So for people who can't afford even this 1,800, I always say, when you're filling up your bathtub, just put your wand underneath the faucet. You are going to have to wait for 15, 20 minutes. But in effect, you're going to get the same result as if you would have a whole house system. If you can afford a whole house system, then you just open your faucet and you don't have to do anything else. All the showering, all the drinking, everything that you do will be in a state of coherence.
Which I want to emphasize. I've emphasized it on the podcast, but it's more important even to bathe in water than drinking good water. If you kind of had to choose, and we absorb so much water through our skin, and
yes,
when we bathe, and especially with babies, like bathing them in tap water is like really not good for them. So whole house is a really like one of the most important investments for a whole house unit for health. And for $1,800 US is not bad at all compared to other units. And what I love about structuring water as well is it's like basically lifetime warranty. Like you don't have to change stuff with filters, every 6 to 12 months. Exactly. You got to change it, which people don't really do. So I always, as I said to you earlier, I prioritize structuring over filtering. I mean, yeah, you can do both, but tell me what you would respond to someone of, what about that fluoride? What about that chlorine? Like, what about those things that are in the tap water, which you're creating coherence? Do those neurotoxins, do those added chemicals and toxins just dissolve, go away, and the coherent water takes over? What happens to the toxins?
The key element, as I mentioned, is the information in the water. And when you change that, you change the water dramatically. That's the key element. And it enables your body to deal with all of the toxins in a much better way,
Right.
because you actually introduce the water of high energy into your system. We always say, if you can, filter the water, so you don't even have to think about it. We are
Right.
actually going to be very soon coming out with a state-of-the-art filtration system as well, and make the water coherent. So we actually want to create the ultimate water treatment system. So then you're basically covered. But just for the just like I mentioned, if you just filter the water, you haven't done the thing. You took out the toxin, but the information is still there, and
It's
you're
dead.
still introducing it. Yeah, so you're still introducing it into your energy of it into your system, and we are vibrational beings. So you're just going to do the same thing. That's why it's much more important to bring water into state of coherence if you have to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
That's why we're coming with a filtration system. So we take all the toxins out and we bring water into state of coherence. And then you have basically everything. And this is exactly what you would want, so that your entire body, which is water itself, you're replenishing it with highest vitality that body needs. We're a very clever H2O when you look at us. So it's so important that we replenish our water with the right kind. Just so you know, when you drink regular water, it just passes through you.
Right. I have an important.
So, yeah.
I have an important question, especially for me and a lot of our listeners, because we love to drink tea and hot water. It's one of the great ways to purify the body by melting the toxins. So, like hot water washes grease off dirty dishes, you sip hot water and it kind of scrubs the intestinal villi and all the toxins. So you say, for Analemma, when I got the product, it says you immerse it in the room temperature liquid, boil the water after you've structured it, and then when it cools down, it will restore the structure. But what if I drink it hot? Will that structure be gone?
Hot is okay. You're not going to be able to drink 100 centigrade.
So 70 degrees, 80 degrees.
70 is, as soon as it comes down under 100, water molecules connect back, because when it reaches boiling point, then water molecules are going to break. But as soon as it cools down under 100, water molecules come back together. This is where the magic is, and it's really extraordinary, again, how incredible water is. It remembers the most dominant frequency it was introduced to. Because just so you know, we realized when we were radiating water with 5G, in one point where we really went close, the water molecules broke. But as soon as we stopped, water molecules came back. Isn't that extraordinary? So it has memory of its highest frequency that it was exposed to, and that's where it goes. That's why this resilience plays a huge role. So it's not like it doesn't this dominant effect is so important. Once you expose water to the most dominant positive frequency, it never forgets it. It always comes back to it. So anyhow, when you boil the water, as soon as it comes underneath 100 degrees, water molecules come back together. And isn't that beautiful, just how the nature works? You can drink it anyhow when it's that hot. You can drink it at 70. At 70, no worries.
Right. And so as soon as 99, it's going back to the coherent state that it was at room temperature?
Yeah, we didn't test it in that way.
Right.
Like just 1 degree.
Okay, 98,
as soon as it comes down, water molecules go back.
Right. Okay.
They remember the state, they come back, and then, however cold it gets, it stays in that particular state. That's why it's kind of so cool.
Right. How important is the stirring of the wand, or can we just leave it in, or is it just going to speed up the transformation?
But you're just speeding up. That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
when you're swirling, then you're really kind of. For me, how I usually drink my water, I use spring water, and I put it into a pitcher where I have an Analemma wand.
Right. Nice.
And
Love
then
that.
I'll leave it so I don't have to
Great
kind
idea.
of swirl,
Love that.
and it just makes it coherent, and that's basically it. But
Love that.
we're going to be coming out with a picture system as well for people who have, so you don't even have to do anything. You just have a picture, you just put the water in, and it will make it coherent. And
Awesome.
we're going to be coming out with this picture filtration system, which is going to be state of the art.
Wow. I'm
So
sure
it's really going to, it will keep the minerals, which are extremely important for our health, but it will purify all the contaminants, including basically everything you can imagine: pharmaceuticals, hormones, microplastics, everything will come out. And what you need in water will stay there and will make the water coherent. So it's really we're super excited about that.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be state of the art. Okay, and I'd love to get your view on hydrogen water or adding hydrogen to water, which is now obviously popular and apparently the panacea. I'd love to hear.
Well, I would say, there are definitely science-based benefits of hydrogen water. Not only hydrogen, oxygen as well. But of course, you have to use a very reputable company that does it right, so you're actually doing the right thing. Because as soon as something becomes, this is a big thing, then there are many manufacturers producing all kinds of things. But I would say definitely hydrogen water works, and oxygen water actually works. But there are several companies that also found a way that if you increase the oxygen, but not to a level where oxidative stress actually is triggered in your body, you're going to have the benefit. And this is the chemical side of things. H2O, it's still chemical side of things. But the key element, I would always say, is the coherence, because we are consciousness. We are actually energy beings. So with drinking coherent water, which is an electromagnetic phenomenon, you are addressing the most fundamental level of our existence. Once you affect that in a positive way, your entire biology is going to follow. So you don't even have to think about it. That's why wherever we venture with our studies, we almost everywhere have extraordinary effects. Because when you address the fundament, everything else kind of reflects that, I would say. It's a good moment to jump in with the microbiome study that we did. So I would say that, water is the most fundamental level of our existence. The next level, I would say, is the microbiome. We like to think of ourselves as single species, and nothing could be further from the truth. We're living in symbiosis with trillions of microorganisms. There are up to 300 times more microbial genes in human body than human genes. And that kind of clearly paints the picture about who we are and what we are. So science has now connected the state of our microbiome with basically any area of our health. So we're not talking about just digestive health. We're talking about immune health, cardiovascular health, neurological health. Everything is connected to the state of our microbiome. That's why we wanted to test what are going to be the effects of drinking Analemma water for the microbiome. So we did a double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we measured what is called dysbiosis index of the microbiome. Dysbiosis index describes the degree of deviation within the microbiome, taking into account all the bacterial phyla and species and their weighing factor. And what we saw is 17% improvement on dysbiosis index over the placebo. But more importantly, we saw sharp decline in bad bacteria and rise in positive bacteria. But just so you know, what a lot of people aren't aware, this bad bacteria have bad rep. You need everything in your body. It's just a matter of level. So it's not like we have to eliminate all the bad bacteria. Then our whole body wouldn't function. It's just a matter of level. Everything needs its optimum level for our body to work in its best way. So yeah, this study was really super exciting for us. It was a pilot study. Now we're in the middle of a large microbiome study where, since science has now pinpointed the exact pathway by which every species of bacteria has an effect on any area of health, what are we now doing is a double-blind, placebo-controlled crossover study that we're doing the DNA sequencing of an entire microbiome. So we're going to have the whole tree of effects of this water on human health. So I'm super, super, super excited. I believe within a month and a half, we're going to have those results. So I'm super
Wow.
happy about
Amazing.
that to see, because then you can really paint the whole picture just from the level of the microbiome. The other study that we're doing is there is now a whole craze in the scientific, in health and wellness community about NAD levels. And since there is a great correlation between ATP and NAD, and we already proved that ATP levels rise more than significantly just by drinking the water, we want to see how much NAD levels go up just again by drinking Analemma water. So I'm super excited about that.
Amazing. And are all these studies being funded by Analemma?
Yes, all of our three-party tested, so it's not like we're doing it. But the key thing, when you witness the beauty of this, you just want to go anywhere. We can do only as much studies as we can at the time, but we always design study with reputable institutions. We just kind of like, let's do this. They're doing it, and we actually not only on humans, we're doing studies on plants, on animals, and several of those studies are actually going to be published very soon as well. So we're also super excited about that. We don't want to stop. When you see the amazing effect that this water has, you just want to do it justice. And I want to emphasize one thing. The mission statement of our company is to make all bodies of water on this planet coherent. We actually already developed eco-friendly technology that we want to install. That's why we want to bring it to governmental level. That's why we're investing so much in the science, because we want to put it at the wells of the biggest rivers. All the life down the stream would thrive. Plant life, animal life, human life. And all this water would end up in oceans. And in a very short period of time, we're going to have coherent oceans. And that is going to have profound effect on every living thing on this planet. Because we are vibrational beings. And when our planet enters into a state of coherence and unison and harmony, everything will reflect that. So this is what we're all about.
I'm with you, brother. You're very clearly you're a water being. Like, you've had another friend on this podcast. I don't know if you have heard of Isabel Friend is her name.
Yes,
she's a water scientist.
I love her.
She's like a water goddess, right? And you're like the water, you're like the water servants, like you're like the masculine.
I love everything about Isabel. Isabel is such an intuitive, amazing being. I actually just had a couple of days ago, she started podcast. So she recorded the podcast with me. So we had a
awesome
ball.
Yeah, she's so good. Awesome. Yeah, I think that I really support that, and I really see the influence that can have on a mass scale, particularly agriculture. And Isabel also has spoken to me about generating energy. I don't know if your devices do that, but there's other, pipes which could be put into the pipes of a city, which have, for example, vortex technology, which actually generates, and you can run a whole.
There is another one really amazing thing that you're going to love when you mentioned energy. So when sweet water or the regular water in the river enters into an ocean, which is salt water, there is a chemical reaction through which you can generate a lot of energy. And we are now actually testing with one university to see whether Analemma water amplifies the production of electricity, because we realize that just when electric potential of water is anywhere between 150 and 300 millivolts. But when you swirl the Analemma through, that electrical potential skyrockets by 300%. So we wanted to see how can we kind of really turn this into energy production as well. But I want to come one step back. You mentioned agriculture. We're so passionate about changing how we're growing food on this planet. It's extraordinarily important. One thing is really since our whole technology is being manufactured in the Netherlands is agriculture. country, like 98% of all agricultural land is being used, and this is the only place on planet that has this. So anyhow, we actually found a piece of soil that was completely destroyed by glyphosate and other chemicals, and it was completely barren. This is a huge problem in many places on the planet where agri company cannot even revive the soil anymore. And just so you know, spinach 15 years ago had 80% more nutrients than spinach today. So this actually becomes a huge problem for the planet, and nobody's really talking about it. So anyhow, what we did a study where we watered one part of this barren, killed piece of soil with regular water and one part with Analemma water, and then we did tests to see what happened on a molecular level within the soil. So the part that was watered with regular water, that was still dead. After 2 months, there was nothing there. It was just, you couldn't grow anything on it. It was just killed. And the part that was watered with Analemma water, there was a huge explosion in biodiversity of the microbiome. So much so that these huge colonies of bacteria started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere into the soil where it belongs. Total nitrogen in soil increased exponentially. Nitrogen cycle improved to the point that within only 2 months, you could grow food again on that piece of soil. So it revived the soil so much that you could grow food on it again. So it's such a simple way to revive the planet. You just water all of the kind of everywhere with it, and we're having this excess CO2 in the atmosphere. Bacteria in the soil is just going to bring it back into the earth where it belongs, because how incredible this works. We breathe out CO2 and plants breathe in and breathe out oxygen. So we are part of this planet. We just need to, as a planet, invest in technologies that nurture this system, which is beautiful. So we are cutting forests left and right, and we are literally killing the ability of the planet to give us oxygen. So we're really crazy that way. We don't realize as a species that we are Earth. We are every tree. We are every river. We are every other human. We are every insect. We are it. We are one with it. If we love our environment, if we nurture our environment is going to nurture us. The state of the world today is just a mirror image of how we are treating each other. So that's why I love how Coherent Water is teaching us the most basic and fundamental thing about life. We are now just like chaotic water. We're crashing into each other constantly. And when the water comes into state of coherence, water molecules take each other's hand, so to speak, colloquially speaking, and they form a liquid crystalline structure. It starts to move in unison, and through this unique process, water becomes alive and empowered and connected. It's teaching us that if we would do that, our true power would be unleashed. Our true joy, our true potential on this planet would be unleashed. And this is what we need to do. Our power is in unison. It's not in separation. Struggle, separation, and fear are not natural to us as beings. We are embodiments of freedom. We are embodiments of love. We are embodiments of the highest intelligence of the universe. It's not something we need to achieve. It's something we need to remember. It's like, for instance, if you now pay attention to where your left big toe is touching your shoe or the floor, up until a second, you weren't aware of it. Now you are. You can feel it. In the same way, our magnificence exists in this very moment. yet we are not paying attention to it. And once we start to pay attention to a part of us that is already free and it's already giving and it's already extraordinarily generous and it's alive and it's happy and it's incredible in every conceivable way, we start to fill the world with that.
So good. I mean, I can't. I got to leave it there. It's so valuable, and yeah, I just love that idea of rehabilitating the glyphosate. That's absolutely so prevalent that it's now even in the rain, and
Yes.
it's a wonderful. I support you very much, and I really hope people are listening to this. I'm sure they will, because it might. My journey, for example, has been shifting different water ways to optimize my water, but with a focus on restructuring water. And I'm blessed to have come into contact with you and find your product. And it's just, it's continuously evolving my personal relationship with water, my household's relationship with water. And thus, other people are doing that. Then the community starts. And then, like what you're working towards, the greater society, the greater countries, greater land and bodies of water. So together with Mario, Analemma, us, Vital Veda, each one of you listeners, yeah, I'm talking to you to put that attention on this fundamental element of not just our human, but the world, and bring it back to the prana, bring it back to the life force, bring it back to the coherence and the harmony that is our innate deserving state and our heritage. So together we can optimize the water and optimize the health of our humans and our planet. So thank you so much, Mario.
Brother. Here, brother. Well said.
I think, there's so much more to talk about, but I'll leave. There'll be plenty of resources in the show notes. And generously, Mario or Analemma has offered our listeners a discount, Vital Veda, one word, and you can get this product. And it's just, as I say, you can do all the supplements, all the yoga classes, the organic food, the juices, but if you can't get your water right, like, we got to start at the fundamentals. And it's not just health, but it translates to consciousness, to emotional health, to mental health. And this coherence, if you just think of coherent body mind, we can move in that direction. So I could go on praising this. I'm a big fan of water, but maybe we'll speak next time when more studies. And there's a lot of studies on the website. If you go to analemma-water.com, there's a wonderful, and you can read more about the 5 phases of how they created this mother water. It's super interesting. So
I always like to invite people, go to coherent-water.com, because Analemma is kind of spelled, so you don't even have to spend time there. We just kind of, for the podcast, we just created another one, coherent-water.com, and you get all the information. I invite you to jump on a newsletter if you want to follow our science. We're doing a lot of stuff all the time, so if you just want to follow the beauty of this is a way to go. We are on Facebook, Instagram, so if you have any questions, shoot us a question. I would love to answer any and all questions. I definitely believe that this century will be the century of water. People will understand the sacredness, the importance, the power of water in our lives, and then we would change our relationship to water and how we treat water and how we treat each other. Because, as I mentioned, we're very clever H2O walking around. Thank you so much, Dylan, for having me and for giving me the opportunity to speak about this. Because as more people hear about this, the change will spread. And then we will all come back into state of harmony. So thank you, brother.
thank you.